Hello everyone and welcome to another horror game review. Now before we get into today's game, let me get something out of the way really quickly. So last time I decided to be useful on YouTube, which hasn't been that— oh my god, 6 months? Anyway, so last time I decided to be useful on YouTube, I said this. I do think a modern graphics update and bug fixes would make this game so much better. If anyone would remake this game, I'd definitely play it. And now there is a remake actually out for iOS and I'm absolutely hyped. Now I haven't actually played this or seen any footage of the game yet, but you can definitely expect a small update on the White Day video after I've played it. And I will play it. Oh god, will I play it. I love this game. So anyway, let's get to today's game, shall we? Today's game is one of the greatest underrated horror games ever created. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. Don't you tell me for 1 second that that intro and that music didn't make an impact on you right away. This game. Man. This game. You just take one look at it and you can just feel it. Yes. This is gonna be glorious. Look at these eyes. Can you resist those eyes? I can't resist these eyes. Now before I get started with this, I want to give a big shout out to DarkChiron, channel in the description, for letting me use snippets of the Let's Play he made of this game back in 2008. In fact, he is the one who made me buy this game back then, and I think he was one of the first people to ever actually touch the game on YouTube. So big thank you to him and go check him out if you're into Let's Plays of horror games. To be absolutely honest though, I don't even know if this game is really all that obscure. It's easy to get, I mean it's just not well known. So let's file it under unknown rather than obscure. First things first though. This game was developed by Head First Production and interestingly enough, published by Bethesda in the USA and Ubisoft in Germany. This game had huge publishers. It first came out in October 2005 for Xbox and March 2006 for PC. Sadly, this was the last game Head First Studios ever created. Right after Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth was released, they had to close down. Apparently though, there was another Call of Cthulhu game planned before they had to close their doors, called Destiny's End. Now I couldn't find anything about it, but I would give so much to see concept art of that game. Just take one look at Dark Corners of the Earth and just imagine for a second what these guys could have done 6 to 7 years later with new technology and a new engine. You can get Dark Corners of the Earth on Steam, but you can't actually get it on GOG, which actually kind of surprised me. I would have thought GOG would be the first site this game would go on. It's the perfect game for a site like that. Anyway, so as you can probably tell from the name of this game, it was based on the Cthulhu myth, created by horror genius H.P. Lovecraft. Funnily enough, this game is not based on Lovecraft's Call of Cthulhu, but actually on his Shadow over Innsmouth, which I would recommend reading before playing this game. But to be absolutely honest, it's not required to know the story before playing this game. In fact, when I first played it in 2008, I didn't even know of H.P. Lovecraft's stories at all, and this game still turned out to be great. Now, if you don't know who H.P. Lovecraft is, his full name is Howard Phillips Lovecraft, and he lived between 1890 and 1937. He didn't really live for that long, but boy did he create something. I could probably create a whole video just about him, so I'll cut this really short and just tell you that he is one of the greatest horror authors to have ever lived on this planet. He created the Cthulhu myth, as I mentioned earlier, as a kind of manifestation of his darkest fears. And if you don't know who Cthulhu is, it's this thing. To make it short, Cthulhu is a god, an ancient god of the ocean, and his followers are waiting for him to wake up from his slumber and return to rule over the world. Now, while I won't spoil the whole thing, I do want to go a little bit into detail for the beginning of the game to give you a better impression of what this game actually is, and in turn I will be spoiling most of, if not the whole story of Shadow over Innsmouth. So if you want to play this game for yourself, you should probably skip to the end to my conclusion of this game. It's also worth mentioning that I'm playing on the second easiest difficulty, because that's the hardest difficulty you have unlocked from the start. Alright, are you ready? Are you sure? Okay, let's go. Alright, so let's take a look at the game's intro.
Now, at my end, I can fully see. My last case opened in me a new fear. A real fear. A fear of myself, of what I am, and of what I've always been. All that I was is now lost. Hope, purpose, pleasure, all meaningless. I now walk in the shadows between worlds, and it is there I have finally glimpsed upon what lives in the dark corners of the earth.
Now let that set the tone for the rest of the game. After that intro, we learn that this person is actually Jack Walters, a private detective. Jack was called to an old house in Massachusetts. Apparently there's a cult locked in the house with guns, and the leader will only talk to him for some reason.
Cover. You better take it slowly though. They're a bit twitchy.
So you just make your way to the house, and of course, in true video game fashion, all hell breaks loose.
Try to stay calm.
You better hurry, Jack.
At this point in the game, you get to explore this house. All these cultists seem to have a curious addiction to dying. Or killing themselves.
Poisoning by the looks of it.
None of them are hostile towards you, and you quickly learn that the cult has been watching Jack for a while. Exploring the place for a bit and coming across dead people, and dead people, and dead people, you will notice your screen shivering and blurring. Now what's that, huh? That's Dark Corners of the Earth's unique game mechanic.
Holy shit.
There is sanity. Seeing disturbing things will lower your sanity, and you can actually go insane if you let yourself look at disturbing stuff for too long. Being in that condition may even sometimes manipulate your controls. The only game I can think of off the top of my head that used this kind of game mechanic before Dark Corners of the Earth is Eternal Darkness from 2002. But to be absolutely honest, I've never played that game, so I can't comment on it. When I first played this, I found this amazing, that your character would react to stuff and actually go insane. It makes you wonder what Jack experienced that would make him go insane seeing dead bodies. You would think as a private investigator he had at least seen a couple of dead bodies, but these seem to bother him a little bit too much in my opinion. I mean, of course later he sees, well, other things, which I can kind of understand why he would go insane seeing that stuff. But I still think that there already is at least a tiny bit insanity in Jack. After all, there's gotta be a reason why he ends up like this. While the system is unique and kinda cool, I feel like it's half-assed. You see, it's never hard to not die from going insane, and most of the time the screen shaking is just a minor annoyance. Later in the game you will even be able to find medicine to calm yourself down. The health system is way better than the sanity system, but we will come back to that later. So anyway, you start to poke around the house a bit and start to hear eerie noises coming from a trapdoor in a study area.
Shit, that did not sound good.
Being a private detective, of course you enter it and find out that the noise came from another dead body.
Well, he's dead.
What a surprise. These cultists really like dying. The place under the house first kind of looks like a laboratory, and this is where the second genius of the game emerges. Pretty much anything can be looked at and examined, and everything has a different voice-acted line of monologue, even if it's the same object in the same room.
Dead bodies, and plenty of them. Something dreadful has been going on down here. They must have been trying to preserve the bodies. From the markings, he must have been one of their own. I wonder if he volunteered. In all my time on the job, I've never seen anything like this before. Seems like these cabinets are used for storing chemicals and medical equipment.
I find this amazing. Lovecraft is known for being able to draw pictures of a place in your mind by explaining how things look in deep detail.
It looks like an eye, but the rest of the painting has no real shape.
It's like a Lovecraft story and the game coming to one. This is just the start of the game, but the trend will continue, and we haven't even seen the best part of the game yet.
The fire's still burning.
The deeper you make your way down below the house, the more otherworldly this place seems to become.
Oh, shit.
So after we accidentally kill a man as piece of a simple puzzle and grab the stone thing over here, we activate some strange machinery, and it seems like we released something that we probably shouldn't have released. Oops. After that, there is another time skip.
It's been more than 6 years since I entered that.
Now we can see Jack's office, and apparently after the incident at the house, Jack seems to have some sort of amnesia going on.
They committed me to an asylum, where I was diagnosed with severe schizophrenia. As it became clear that I presented no danger to either myself or others, I was released from the asylum's care.
And he gets a call from a guy asking to examine a missing person case in a little town called Innsmouth. Jack's supposed to find a guy called Brian Burnham. Apparently he was the holder of a store chain store in Innsmouth.
Did you get my package?
And now this is where it gets really good. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Innsmouth. This place is the absolute best part of the game in my opinion. It looks even better than in my memories because I'm running a sweet FX setting called the old ones. Just take a look at the impact sweet FX has on that game. I mean, just look at this! The eerie Gilman house, the weak lanterns, everything looks just as I would have imagined Innsmouth to look like. It's beautiful! So beautiful. I know I'm kinda rambling at this point, but you can see that the people who made this game actually gave a crap about the source material.
Stop your snooping.
It even has some of the characters from the actual story, like Zadok Allen. We'll get to him a little bit later. To me, this is the best part of the game. Exploring the town of Innsmouth is just amazing to me. Although you do spend a good chunk of the game in Innsmouth, there are a couple of different places to explore later in the game. You don't spend your whole game on the streets of Innsmouth, and you will later see why. What I'm trying to say here is that they nailed the atmosphere in this place. It's not that easy to explain, to be honest. It just feels dark, old, and kind of off. Just look at this footage and you will know exactly what I mean.
Evening.
Hi.
The name's Jack Walters. I'm just visiting.
You don't say, sir. Gilman. Charlie Gilman. I run this here hotel of an evening.
You got any rooms?
I'd not rightly know that for sure. All habits cleaning rooms at present. Them's from out of town can leave a horrid mess.
Talking to this fellow's getting me nowhere, and he's more than a touch creepy. If I need a room and I'm desperate, then I'll come back.
Stop your snooping. And there's for hotel staff only.
It won't open. It's locked.
See what I mean? It just feels like a place you would never want to be in. Like a town that doesn't have a place to be on this planet. Alright, now that I'm done fangasming all over this place, let's take a look at what actually happens here. It is immediately clear that something is not right about this place. Nobody seems to want to talk to you about the missing person, and some of the citizens are even outright rude to you.
Where is everybody? It's very quiet.
I reckon you might have scared him off with that ugly face of yours.
I'm going to rip off your head and stuff it down your throat!
Oh, sorry about that. You can even overhear people talking about you.
I won't tell him anything.
Not to mention that you're obviously being watched by something. Please don't kill me, thanks. All the time while exploring Innsmouth, you pick up a bunch of different diaries and papers that give you clues to what's going on in the town. I mean, of course, if you know the original story, you already know what's going on in the town, but it does add a lot of atmosphere, and it explains the story to people who have never heard of Innsmouth before. In fact, I might even read some of the more interesting papers I find throughout the town in separate videos. So naturally, you start sniffing around the town and find the store that Brian Burnham worked in.
It's unlocked.
So after sneaking in there, you notice that the break-in just doesn't seem right.
The glass has been broken, and there...
You find an open safe and you pick up a bottle of rum, and then you fall to your doom. Yeah, well, I guess we got caught, didn't we?
Whoever's down there, you can rock.
So after solving an easy puzzle and finding creepy rooms,
human remains.
You find yourself back on the streets. And now this is where we get back to Zadok Allen the drunkard. And he just sings beautifully like an angel. Just have a listen, alright?
The joy of the noble and the brave, who love a life in the temperate strife, in the home of the mountain wave.
The way he brings his inner juices to flow is mesmerizing. Oh god, that was a bad joke. Can we even do this on YouTube? Okay, so to be absolutely serious here for 1 second, this voice actor is simply amazing.
Now you be calling me crazy. Like them that's thar rumoring and anchoring in Ipswich. But old Zadok's seen all manner of wicked things since before you was born.
It actually wasn't all that easy to track down who exactly this voice actor is because this game isn't really well known, but IMDb, like so many times, came to my rescue and told me that the name of this person is Dave Rivas. And after even further investigation, I found out that Mr. Rivas or Rivas or Rivas, Dave, actually runs a small YouTube channel called Dave's Voice, link in the description. Turns out not only did he voice act Zadok Allen, but he also voice acted a bunch of the Innsmouth citizens, at least one of the cult members in the mansion from the beginning, the young officer from the beginning, and a bunch of other characters in this game that I can't even name. And turns out he also voice acted in Amnesia: The Dark Descent. This guy has an amazing voice, talent, and skill, and he really brought Innsmouth to life. So if you're watching this, Dave, thank you so much for making my experience in Innsmouth that much better. Of course, he's not the only person who voice acted in this game, and I want to give credit to all of the amazing voice actors. But Zadok Allen just jumped out at me for being particularly amazing. But I will link a list of the full voice actor credits in the description. Anyway, after handing Zadok the rum, because it's obvious that that's what he wants, he tells us strange things about an order of Dagon, oaths and human sacrifices. Surely that's only the babble of a drunkard, right? Most importantly though, he hands us a key to the poorhouse that was locked before.
Giving me a key to the town poorhouse. It could come in handy.
You also meet this woman called Rebecca Lawrence, who is a bit nicer than the other female Innsmouth citizens. She basically tells us that we need to visit Ruth because she was Brian's girlfriend. So we have the key to the poorhouse now, so that's obviously where we're going to go next, to meet more of the beautiful, nice people of Innsmouth.
If I see you with outsider, I'll report your order.
Do you need any help? Disease is rampant in this town.
And, well, remember how I said that you're being watched? Well, just have a look at this.
Since old Lady Warren's passed away,
So yeah,
food is rotten.
we're being watched by something?
I see.
So after crossing the poorhouse, we eventually visit the house where a little girl with the name of Ramona greets
Are
us.
your parents at home?
She tells us her dad isn't home and her mother is upstairs, and she bites.
Bites. Daddy says we've got to keep her up there for her own good.
So she invites us in to wait for her dad, and the curious mind we are, we go exploring and... well, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And that's why you don't open doors to strangers. They could let your fish thing mom loose. After being unconscious for a while, we wake up again and find Ramona's dad mourning the death of his daughter. Oh, that might have been my fault. Sorry.
They've taken the last thing I loved away from me.
So he gives us the key for his store because he feels like he has nothing to lose now, just before the police burst in and arrest him for murdering his daughter. Clearly, there's something fishy going on here. Literally. It reveals something about the town, but not too much. It still leaves you hungry for more. I think that is absolutely brilliant. The storytelling in these first parts of the game is spot on in my opinion.
That he was caught by the order of Dagon.
So we pick up his diary because he said,
The safe combinations in my diary upstairs.
heading to his store, we also meet Ruth, Brian's aforementioned girlfriend. She actually doesn't have anything of value to say though, so just let's get to the interesting part. Turns out the combination isn't actually in full in the diary, but we do have this part right here. Every time I look at Ramona, I know it. Watching her sleep in her beauty and innocence, my heart feels like breaking. She has no idea of what she will become. Yesterday was her 10th birthday. The change cannot be far off. Her birth gave me such joy. So much that I still use the month, day, and year as the 4-number combination for my safe. In that order, starting clockwise. So, you get that? We need a 4-digit combination of yesterday's date. But wait, what day is it? There's no way we could know, right? Well, earlier we picked up a local newspaper telling us that it's February the 7th. So because it was yesterday, it must have been the 6th of February, right? So the combination should be 2 for February, 6 for the day, and 22 for the year. But no, that's wrong.
I must have made a mistake.
You know why it's wrong? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. Alright, time's up. The correct combination is 2512, because she was born yesterday, 10 years ago.
Yes, that's it.
I'm going into a lot of detail here for a simple puzzle, but I thought this was really cool. It's not an obvious puzzle and it doesn't hold your hand in any way. It makes you figure this stuff out. The only hint it gives you is that you should look into the diary, and to be quite honest, I think this puzzle would have been even better if it didn't tell you that. Just imagine the scene would have been like this.
They've taken the last thing I loved away from me. Take the key to the back of my store. The safe combinations.
You've gone too far this time, wait. We're taking you in for murder.
Don't you think figuring out this puzzle would have been cooler that way? And even more rewarding? But perhaps that would have been a little too cryptic because you don't get the diary right after that scene. You actually have to go pick it up. But either way, I enjoyed this. Actually, there's a consistent theme of the puzzles in this game not being impossible without a guide, and I enjoy that. I love puzzles, and I love puzzles like this where it's actually possible to figure it out. I'm a big fan of Riven and Myst, so I'm no stranger to hard puzzles, but I think giving players puzzles that they can actually solve without looking up hints is very hard to do. Usually these games go the route of the puzzles either being too hard or too easy, but these kind of puzzles are just right in my opinion.
Yes, that's it.
So after opening the safe, what do we get? We get the Book of Dagon.
The safe holds a
So whatever is in that book, we probably now know way more than the citizens of Innsmouth ever wanted us to know. And yeah, we do. We know so much that we don't get to leave the town anymore. In fact, we get told that the bus won't leave until the next day. So our only way to spend the night is in the spooky Gilman's house that we saw earlier. So we head to the Gilman's house and overhear them basically planning out to kill us.
I've been talking, Charlie. I got instructions from the order to make certain the outsider doesn't leave tonight.
Also, we get to explore the lobby a bit while Gilman is gone, and through another unsettling vision, we know where to grab the key and check the back room.
There are severed body parts strewn all over the office.
See, I don't know why there is a room full of body parts in here, but I'm sure it's nothing harmful. He probably just likes collecting memorabilia.
I wonder what.
So yeah, this is definitely the best place to stay for the night. And surprise, the Innsmouth citizens do come to kill you.
I just don't feel safe going to sleep yet.
I mean, even your character knows it at this point and doesn't even let you go to sleep if you don't bolt the door shut. And thank God you do, because you get a vision of these fish people coming up and trying to wreck your shit. And you just get barely enough time to get out of there through the window. I mean, just look at this. It looks terrifying, and it's even worse when you play it. It's just amazing the way they did this part. So yeah, I'm going to spoil right now why Innsmouth is so weird. Okay, do you see these people? Don't they look a little bit off? Yeah, that's what H.P. Lovecraft in Shadow over Innsmouth calls the Innsmouth look. And, well, the reason why the people there look like this is because, well, how do I put this? They breed with fish creatures. They breed with fish creatures. That's fucking disgusting. But that's why they look like this. Apparently they get born normal, and some of them stay normal their whole life, but eventually they turn into complete fish people and go under the sea to live there forever. This is so strange that can only come from H.P. Lovecraft. During your escape, it becomes abundantly clear that you have some sort of ability to see what these fish people see. And you also meet these cute rats. So adorable. Low polygon, adorable rats. Can't get enough of them. On your way to escape the fish people, you will get hurt. And that's what these medpacks were we picked up earlier. When you use them, Jack actually has to sit down and apply the bandage to his injured body part. And not only that, your injuries can range from not too bad to, oh my god, I broke my legs! There's also morphine, which numbs your pain momentarily and makes you addicted. I thought that was really cool. It makes you not want to use it, but sometimes you have no choice but to use it. Because when trying to sneak past some fish people, they will hear you if you are injured. It's like, well, a horror story. You have to do everything you can to survive. And that's what makes the great horror game, doesn't it? It has a great atmosphere and it makes your character's spirit just break sometimes. Driving him into a slow, downward spiral to insanity. Because we all know how he's going to end up. They handled the normal health system way better than they did the sanity system. I mean, they could have just created a health bar and called it a day, but no, they went the extra mile to make fitting body parts be injured and making these body parts affect gameplay. This is so unique and I remember it so clearly, and I'm wondering why other survival horror games haven't adopted this kind of health system. Or perhaps I'm just missing a game here where this kind of health system actually exists. So anyway, at this point, the game becomes a survival horror game, and it does it well. From all my praise for this game, you would think that this is the perfect survival horror game, right? Well, no, it's not. The subtle creepiness is still present, but not as strong as before. And having fish people yell in your face doesn't help either.
Where did he go?
Especially when you start finding weapons to defend yourself with. And using weapons to kill him feels clunky at best. And not only that, it looks and sounds... The game also gets extremely linear after that. I mean, it's not as if the game hasn't been linear before, but at least you got to free roam and explore. It still has great parts like the church where you have to solve a puzzle and get into this really eerie crypt. There are even puzzles down here that had me scratching my head for a while. The game just seems to be at its best when it shows you something, when it shows you the scenery and you get to explore that scenery. A whole town being like this, like Innsmouth, you wouldn't actually see in any other survival horror game, and I would definitely recommend playing through it completely, don't get me wrong. Even after this part the game is still great, amazing in fact, but I did catch myself missing free roaming Innsmouth several times after leaving its streets.
Where's everybody? It's very quiet.
I mean, sure, even after escaping from your hotel, you still spend a huge amount of time in Innsmouth itself, but you spent a little too much time in boring indoor areas like the sewers or the Marsh refinery. But to be fair, the sewers are pretty damn cool. Just take a look at this. Well, if that isn't well made, then I don't know what is. The refinery in particular strikes me as the most boring part of the game. Sure, it's an important part of the original story Shadow over Innsmouth, and it's kinda cool getting to explore it because in the story it was only talked about, but jeez, please show me more of Innsmouth. There's more than just this refinery and the sewers. I remember when I first played this, I kept wishing to be able to see the beautiful sky again, and if not that, at least another one of the interesting dark buildings we saw earlier on. I mean, technically you are still in Innsmouth, but you are in a huge building full of boring machines for hours on end. And I don't think that actually counts as being in Innsmouth anymore. And after the refinery part is over, you don't even get to go back to Innsmouth. You don't return to the old town and this game is halfway done. There are still some cool parts in this game. For example, you get to be on a ship and get to be attacked by fish creatures, which is actually really cool when they attack you in waves. But it just doesn't compare to that glooming atmosphere of Innsmouth. And after that it's back indoors, see what I mean? Even the boat isn't as creepy as Innsmouth was, and it should be seeing how there are fish creatures all over the place. I know I said in the beginning of this review that this is one of the greatest underrated horror games ever, but its strong points are definitely in the first 4 or 5 hours, as I've established for the past minutes. It's important to mention that the original story Shadow over Innsmouth ends after the main character escapes the city. I mean, he has a monologue at the end and discovers an amazing plot twist, which I won't spoil, but the story in Innsmouth itself is over. You don't actually get to find out what's in all the places that are mentioned in the story. And I think perhaps the game should have done that as well, and not continued making the story prolong after that.
Get lost, stranger.
I think it's worth mentioning that I'm not running the Steam version of this game. I'm running a retail version called Ubisoft Exclusive. I didn't really expect to be running into a lot of problems with this game because I remember it working fine last time I played it, aside from a few game-breaking bugs. I will get back to that later, but I actually did have problems getting this game to run on my Windows 7 64-bit computer. Just take a look at what happened when I first tried to run this game.
Something must be wrong.
Do you hear that noise? That noise is not on your computer. Every time I pressed any button, it made that noise. And when I tried to press escape to go into the options... yeah, that. At first I thought it might have been a problem with running DxTory at the same time as the game, but when I tried using OBS, the same thing happened. So I looked online and it turns out people running the Steam version are having similar problems. I thought it was kinda ridiculous that these kind of compatibility problems weren't fixed in the Steam version. I had initially suspected that it was a compatibility problem, but I didn't actually want to reinstall Windows XP in order to get a game to run. So eventually I entered a solution people say worked in my registry. I can press escape fine now, but when I try to alt-tab out of the game... yeah. So lesson learned, don't alt-tab out of Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth if you're not running Windows XP. I will include the link for the fix below as well, so if anybody else runs into these problems, there it is. I wasn't able to completely get rid of the bugs, even with the unofficial patch installed.
These shelves look light enough to push.
But the game runs stable for the most part. I also had a problem where the game would keep crashing whenever I pushed this box, but when I was crouching and pushing the box away from the door and not into it, it seemed to work fine. Oh, and by the way, if you plan on playing this game, install this patch. It is vital. It prevents game-breaking bugs later on in the game, and it also adds the ability to increase FOV. And I know that a lot of people are having motion sickness with any FOV under 90. And it also gives you the ability to completely customize gameplay. You can pretty much customize every single value to your liking in this patch, and I thought it was cool that this exists. I would even go as far as calling this patch essential. I especially like the I want to break stuff checkbox. Nice touch. It even adds the drop the reach hand feature, which doesn't look that amazing, but I think it kinda helps the immersion at least a little bit.
My arm!
Do you remember when early on I was talking about game-breaking bugs? I didn't encounter them in this playthrough, but that's probably also because I'm running the unofficial patch that fixed some of them, and I didn't actually play through this game completely because I wanted to get this done soon, and I didn't really have time because of university, thanks to DarkChiron. But I remember at least one game-breaking bug very clearly. I don't really have footage for that, so please excuse my drawing skills. So at the end of the game, you're trying to escape this underground facility while it collapses. And you have like rocks falling down left and right that you have to dodge, and it's kind of like a memory game to find out where you have to dodge and where you don't have to dodge. So anyway, eventually there's a hole leading to some sort of cave, and there's a rock that is supposed to drop right behind you after you pass it. But instead, this rock would keep falling on you. Again, again, and again. And that wasn't because I was too slow, it was a bug. Then, after what felt like the billionth try, I did this part without touching my mouse once. And that was it. That fixed the bug for some reason, and I was able to finish the game. And that is only one game-breaking bug, and it's way towards the end, but I know that other people have experienced even more in the vanilla game. So, what is my conclusion to Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth? It's kind of hard to judge, to be honest. I mean, it's definitely not a masterpiece, and it has its problems. It's not the prime example of a flawless survival horror game, but it has parts where its brilliance shines through. I just love this game so much. It has so many great parts and fun gameplay, but sometimes it just feels clunky and rushed. The best part, in my opinion, is the atmosphere, but that's not even its only strong part. I just feel like it could have been so much more than what it is, even though it already is amazing. The bugs definitely aren't as annoying as the ones in White Day, but they are sometimes a little bit more severe to the point of breaking the game. As much as I would like to, I just can't say this game's perfect, because it's just not. But if you are a lover of survival horror games and haven't played this game yet, I suggest getting it on sale on Steam. Even if you are just a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, it's worth checking it out just for the initial exploration phase of the game. It's amazing, but it has flaws. It's definitely atmospheric at any point in the game, but it picks locations where it can't fully realize that great atmosphere. And I do understand that some of them need to be there because of the plot, but man, I just feel like it wasted so much potential. All in all, I would probably have to rate it about 8 out of 10. Initially, I wanted to give it 9 out of 10, but I just can't excuse how rushed this game feels, especially in the later parts of the game. If you take your time, it can cost you the better part of a couple of days to finish it. Probably had to be finished really quickly too, because Headfirst Production was going broke at that point, and I think that's where the bugs come from too. But that's just an explanation, not an excuse. I'd say either get a hard copy of this game on Amazon because I think it's cheaper there, or get it on Steam on sale. Despite all my complaints, this is still a game that I am in awe of, and I'm disappointed that a lot of people have never heard of this. But perhaps my review can fix this, at least for a couple of people out there.